So in your fantasy football draft, you're picking 9 to 12. You've got a turn pick. We're going to tell you exactly how to handle it, whether you have pick 9, pick 10, pick 11, or pick 12. We're going to go through the strategy, what's optimal, what's your backup plan, what targets we're going after in the first couple rounds, and then we'll do 2 mock drafts, one on flockfantasy.com, 9 and 12, and then one on Sleeper from 10 and 11, showcasing the strategy that we talk about here. Before we say anything, the guys that we have ranked in this territory: Malik Neighbors, Christian McCaffrey, Devon Achane, Brian Thomas Jr. If by some miracle, Justin Jefferson, Lamb, Puka Nacua, Nico Collins, Saquon, or anyone in the previous videos, 1 to 4, 5 to 8, fall there, those guys are the optimal picks when they're on the board. Just adapt to our rankings and, of course, adapt your strategy to a running back or wide receiver in the first round.
And I'm sure somebody's in the comments section like, oh, what are you talking about? I got Jamar Chase at my 109. What are you guys smoking? What are you talking about? There will be leagues where there will be weird draft boards. Like Aaron Rodgers will go with the 4th overall pick. A kicker might go in the top 10. Again, we're talking for the most part, the majority of the market. These are about the names in the range that we would expect to see.
For sure. So let's talk about what happens, because 9 to 12, it is actually not that bad of a spot to pick from, because in my estimation, in your estimation, there's about 17, 18 players, give or take, that stand head and shoulders above like the mid to late second round. And then that 2-3 turns, not the greatest. So you are probably going to catch 2 of those guys. But the strategy changes whether or not you take a wide receiver in the first round or whether or not you take a running back in the first round. So we'll talk about the wide receiver strategy first. The optimal start, if you take a first round wide receiver, in my opinion, is double hero wide receiver. As in, you take a round 1 hero wide receiver, whether it's Malik Neighbors, Puka Nacua, Nico Collins, maybe Brian Thomas Jr., Amon-Ra St. Brown. Those are the guys that I have ranked in the first round from pick 7 to 12. And then, Danny, you have Collins, Nacua, Neighbors, and BTJ from around that 7 to 12 range at the wide receiver position as well.
Yeah, 100%. Those would be the guys ideally in round 1. When you're in the 9 through 12 range, pick your flavor. Again, you will tend to see this decision made for you, especially if you're in the back half of the board. But whether it's Collins, Nacua, Neighbors, BTJ for both of us, and you would feel comfortable also taking Amon-Ra in the first. We'll talk about it in a second. But when it comes to round 2, I'd feel comfortable taking any of these guys, including Amon-Ra St. Brown. Maybe even if you want to throw in a Drake London and AJ Brown. I think those are the wide receivers, about 9 guys that I'd feel comfortable taking in the top 15 or 16 of my drafts this year.
Yeah, and I talked about it in the early round wide receiver video. Basically, the reason for that is because they're all wide receiver ones in their prime. You feel very safe about their projections. They hit at the highest rate. If you do that, though, if you go double hero wide receiver, you better feel comfortable that you can catch up at running back in the round 3, 4, 5 territory. And as we've talked about in some of these other videos, Hampton, Jacobs, Walker, Brees, Kyron, James Cook types, maybe Trevion Henderson in the early 4th round, or Alvin Kamara if you're really into him. That's kind of the optimal way that we're going to play it, because we do feel comfortable in those round 3 projections, because wide receiver is not the greatest in that territory of the draft. And at the end of the board, you're probably not looking at Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson or Trey McBride anymore. It's the decision probably between running backs, suboptimal wide receiver projections, and do you go with Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels, or George Kittle?
Correct. And we would prefer to get our onesie in the 4th in this range. Obviously, you do have the wraparound, so that early 4th round pick. You can take whoever falls, Hurts, Daniels, like you said, at the quarterback position. More than likely going to be George Kittle. Like, I'd be hard-pressed to see a guy like Trey McBride falling in this range. Realistically, the 4th round, the early 4th round, is probably the area of the onesie that I would want to take, as opposed to taking it before the 3-4 wraparound.
Yeah, and again, the caveat is that if you're in an extremely heavy running back room where by the 309 or the 310 or the 311, there's nobody left, all of those guys that I mentioned are off the board and everyone's gone, then you probably don't want to go double hero wide receiver. You're probably going to be behind the 8 ball at running back if you do that, and you maybe want to take a little bit more of a balanced approach. And the backup strategy for a round 1 wide receiver is that balanced approach where you're going with, let's say, a hero wide receiver like Malik Neighbors, Nacua, somebody like that, Nico Collins, who we would like taking in the first round. And then in round 2, you're probably getting best available running back, because some of those wide receivers are flying off the board. Ideally, it's Devon Achane, it's Christian McCaffrey, it's Ashton Genty, or it's Derrick Henry. It's probably too early for Chase Brown, or probably too early for Bucky Irving or Jonathan Taylor. You probably want to secure one of those top 7 guys. And in round 3, you can also probably then double up on running back, do a double hero RB after that hero wide receiver. So it kind of behaves the same way as we talked about at the early portion of the board, where you take Chase plus double tapping running back. It's just a different territory of running backs that you're getting.
Yeah, if you're going to take the onesie, I would prefer it to be in the 4th round area, because I would rather attack the end of the run of the guys you kind of mentioned earlier.
Yeah, Hurts, Daniels, or Kittle. If you're picking at the 111 or whatever, let's say you start your draft with a balanced approach. You go Nico Collins, you grab Devon Achane in the second round. Round 3 comes along and you grab, Kenneth Walker, or Breece Hall, Kyron Williams, James Cook at the 311. And then in the early 4th, you grab Jalen Hurts. So you grab Jaden Daniels, you grab George Kittle. That's a pretty optimal start there. And then, of course, as we've talked about in all of these videos, rounds 5 through 7, wide receivers are plentiful. You kind of hammer those out. Let's talk about what it looks like when you take a running back in round 1, because again, you're in a similar area of the board. It's not that much different, but running back in round 1 does come with a different level of, scarce mindset, in my opinion, because if you take the running back, you might get locked out of those top wide receivers.
Exactly. I do believe if you take a running back in the first round, you almost have to be assured that one of the wide receivers are falling to you. Whichever the first round guys we mentioned, maybe a Drake London. To me, if I were to segment it, if I'm pick 9 or 10, I'm more likely just grabbing the receiver being done. Again, the caveat that I do have is I do have McCaffrey a little bit further up the board than you. He's at my 9 slot, but particularly with a guy like Devon Achane, he is at my 12th overall position. For the most part, if you know that wide receiver will not make it back to you in the second round because you pick at 9 or 10, take the wide receiver first. But if you can and you have to take the running back, I would prefer it to happen at the 11 or 12. Even though I have McCaffrey ranked as my 9th overall player and a lot of formats, because, a lot of casuals want to fade risk, he should be available at that 10, 11, 12 spot. In fact, you were mentioning before we started recording, his current sleeper ADP is what, 13th overall, you said?
Yeah. He goes off the board in the mid-second round, early to mid-second round there in sleeper leagues. So it really is, if you go running back in round 1, the reason you're doing it is because you think the running backs will dry up by round 2 and you can get a good wide receiver. For me, in my home league, I pick in this area of the board. And I talked about that in the number 1 draft strategy video. And I pick at 9, which in my opinion is the worst area of the board in this range, because you might catch or you might miss the wide receivers and running backs falling back to you. So for me, I feel like I can get good running backs in the 3rd and 4th round. So that's why I'm going with the wide receiver, most likely with Puka Nacua or Malik Neighbors with the first selection, because Devon Achane hopefully falls to me, but I can't count on that. We saw that happen in the Flock League draft to Sammy at the 9 hole, but it's not a guarantee that it happens to me. So round 3, round 4, again, it doesn't really change. If you go, let's say you go with the running back in the first round and you go with that balanced approach, you take a wide receiver, maybe St. Brown falls to you, maybe Drake London falls to you, maybe Nico falls to you, whatever the case is, then you are able basically to go back to the 3rd round, catch up at running back, Hampton, Jacobs, Walker, Breece, Kyron, Cook types. And then in the 4th round, again, the onesie might be optimal for you. Hurts, Daniels, or Kittle. It's pretty straightforward. The strategy is the same. It really all depends on what you do with your first pick.
Exactly. And again, we will mention this backup strategy. Again, we prefer this to be in the back pocket if you fall victim to a certain wide receiver run. But let's just say hypothetically, like McCaffrey is by far your best player on the board, and you're at 9, you're at 10. You say, hey, McCaffrey, he was the 2023 RB1. I think he's going to get back to that level. He simply should not be available on the board. For example, Sal took him at 5 in the Flock League. Maybe you're at that type of valuation. He should be a top 5 or 6 pick, and he fell to you, and you got a gift horse wrapped to you. Okay, no problem. You take him at 9 or 10. That's perfectly fine. Let's just say before you pick in the 2nd round, at that point, the Drake London, Amon St. Brown, Brian Thomas Jr., and up wide receiver tier all go off the board. I would need all of those guys off the board to take the 2nd running back. And then at that point, it's probably because a guy like Devon Achane, Ashton Genty, Derrick Henry falls to you in the 2nd round, because by process of elimination, if the wide receivers are getting pushed up, one of those guys is almost assuredly making it back.
Yeah, mathematically, it would be like pretty much impossible that they don't make it back.
Yep.
So double hero RB, you could do it from the 9 hole or from the 10 hole. I would say it's definitely suboptimal from the 9
Agreed.
and 10 specifically, but it is probably the most likely backup strategy for those picks, because like you said, you're probably not going to have to do it from 11 or 12, because you have the opportunity of grabbing 2 wide receivers or 1 of each if you need to.
Yeah, exactly. And if you were stuck in a situation, RB round 1, RB round 2, how do we adapt the strategy? We mentioned in round 3, we like the running back profiles ahead of some of these wide receivers. We like the onesie profiles ahead of some of these wide receivers. But you don't have a choice. If you take running back in the first 2 rounds in any competitive league, you almost need to take a wide receiver next. For us, that range would be, pick your flavor. Do you like Marvin Harrison Jr.? Do you like T. Higgins? Do you like Jackson Smith and Jigba? Do you like Tyreek Hill? Again, this would be a slight reach based off my consensus rankings, barring Marvin Harrison Jr., but you don't have the luxury of passing wide receiver again. If you don't grab a wide receiver in the first 2 rounds, you can't afford to have your wide receiver 1 start in the 4th, in my opinion, this year. It's not viable.
Of course, yeah. And we're talking specifically about half PPR and full PPR formats. In standard
Correct.
leagues, that's not really applicable. And also, too, if I go double hero RB, let's say I take CMC and HN at like the 10 hole or whatever, and I get Marvin Harrison sliding to me, or I get JSN or Tyreek Hill sliding to me in the third round, I'm probably going to take another receiver after that, too. I'll probably take Devontae Adams or Mike Evans or Xavier Worthy or somebody in that territory because I just don't feel confident in my, let's say, Marvin Harrison or my first receiver being like a hammer for me at that area of the draft. I probably want two guys in the similar territory that I'm willing to take that risk on.
I don't want to be left in a situation where I have Marvin Harrison Jr., Stephon Diggs, and Ricky Pearsall are my top 3 receivers. I don't feel good about that.
No, and that's why we think that the optimal way to go about this is to do the wide receivers first, because I think the team through the first 4 rounds, the team of Nico Collins and Drake London and Amari Hampton, Breece Hall is better than CMC, Devon Achane, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Mike Evans. Maybe you think that second one is better. That's totally fine. You can do that if that's your opinion, but we like the double hero wide receiver strategy a little bit better. So that's kind of the direction we're going at in full PPR leagues, especially. Again, in half PPR becomes a little bit more convoluted. You can definitely get away with the double hero a little bit more easily at the running back position.
Yeah, for sure. And the same principles do apply to the onesie position. Of course, you're not going to be taking one in round 2 unless you're in a very shallow league. The only guy worth an early round 2 pick would be a guy like Brock Bowers. And in round 3, you're likely going to miss on Lamar, Allen, and McBride. If they fall to you at the late 3rd round, you thank your lucky stars and you take them. But for the most part, they should be off the board. Usually the last one by the mid-3rd. 3-4 turn, though, we do think is optimal. You take whatever wide receiver. Let's just say, for example, if you start double hero running back, you take whatever wide receiver you like. If you start with 2 wide receivers or 1 of each, you take whichever running back or wide receiver you like. Then in round 4, we think that is the prime range for the onesie. Whether it's George Kittle, whether it's Jaden Daniels, whether it's Jalen Hurts, you can get one of those guys, especially if you are able to grab adequate wide receiver depth early. That would be, in my opinion, the optimal strategy. 2 wide receivers, 1 running back in the 3rd, and then you grab your elite onesie in most redraft leagues.
Yeah. And again, in round 5 to 7, we're usually hammering out wide receivers, maybe deviating for a running back. We're probably not grabbing Burrow, probably not grabbing Mahomes, probably not grabbing Laporta or Hawkinson types. The one guy that does maybe come into play is if you can get a good value on Mahomes. This is about the area of the draft where Rashee Rice will go on the way back on casual leagues. He might go in the 5th round. So you might be able to get Patrick Mahomes in the 6th or the 7th round. But for the most part, you're probably not going to be drafting Burrow, Mahomes, Laporta, because Burrow's stacking options on the other side of the board. He'll probably go in that territory. And then Laporta and Hawkinson's just a little bit too early. As we talked about, default to plan B. When all else fails, late round quarterback, late round tight end, in rounds 8 through 15, aim to secure a couple of targets if you need to. Like in the last draft that we did in the 5 to 8, you grabbed Caleb Williams and Trevor Lawrence. You're going to figure out your starting quarterback early on in the year and then probably drop one of those guys and stream the position, worst case scenario. Late round tight end targets, as we always talk about. Warren and Loveland, the 2 rookies, 8-9 turn at this end of the board. They feel very good.
If you learn anything about these strategy videos, if you know that you can get Warren and Loveland late in your drafts, it almost not desensitizes. It almost dissuades me from taking an early tight end, knowing just how aggressively ranked we have those 2 in particular. If I know every draft I'm in, I can get one of those guys round 8 and round 9. I just simply don't want to take a tight end early.
Yeah, and the word you were looking for is de-incentivizes.
De-incentivizes, correct.
There you go.
There you go.
Andrews, Kraft, Kincaid, and Njoku, Ferguson, Goddard, again, same tight end targets, same quarterback targets. Kyler, Nix, Mayfield, Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jordan Love, Brock Purdy, Trevor Lawrence. Again, use your wide receivers as a compass, stack them up. It's the easiest way to go about the late round quarterback strategy. And again, format adjustments for the for the pick 9 to 12 strategy. Running back values are always overinflated in standard. Near the first round turn, though, you may be able to double up and get 2 really solid options. And the round 3 to 4 range where we said, oh, maybe Hampton's there, maybe Breece is there, they won't be in a standard league. They absolutely will not be there. So
Alvin Kamara might not be there.
Exactly. At the end of round 1 and 2, if you're in a standard league only, you could potentially get Genty, Jonathan Taylor, or Bucky Irving, Chase Brown, or something like that.
That's the caveat. We mentioned in, a full PPR league, deeper league settings, it's like double hero running back would be the back pocket type of strategy. if you're in a standard league, that is the optimal strategy. If you're at the 1-2 and you can get 2 workhorse running backs, force the run, like I said, and even an Alvin Kamara type, Trevion Henderson type, Kenneth Walker type, probably not even going to make it back to you in the 3rd round of a standard league draft. So if you're at the back end of your draft, and I would say in a standard league, the back end is probably the most optimal spot to pick from, because you can grab your 2 workhorses and not worry about it for the rest of the draft.
Yeah, and you're going to probably be drafting Jonathan Taylor, Irving, Chase Brown, or better with both of your picks at the running back position. And then again, when we talk about the wide receiver heavy stuff, complete other end of the spectrum, double hero wide receiver becomes even more optimal, as does the risk, by the way, on the round 3 to 4 wide receivers. Because like if you're in a 3 wide receiver, 2 flex, full PPR league, and you grab Nico Collins and Drake London to start your draft, and you want to take Marvin Harrison Jr. with your 3rd pick, well, in a start 3 wide receiver, full PPR, if Harrison crushes, he's going to give you a huge advantage at that position. So it's not even necessarily like you have to pick, the running back position at the 3-4 turn, as we talked about in the 0 wide receiver or the 0 running back video. If you have less running backs in your starting lineup and it's start 3 wide receiver, full PPR, you can get a little bit more creative with how many wide receivers you have on your roster. 10-man leagues, the elite onesie strategies become all the more important, more likely to take Bowers in round 2, more likely to get Lamar, McBride, or Allen falling back to you in round 3 because there's simply 4 less picks at that territory of the draft. And then 14 and 16-man leagues, not much changes at the 1-2 turn for these formats. Just generally you want to draft safer across the board. And again, if you're picking, this isn't actually the end of the board. 9 to 12 is kind of more so the mid to late part of the board. If you're in a 14 or a 16-man league, you are probably going to be screwed to some degree of the players that are falling back to you, because you're going to be into like mid-second round players as opposed to early second round players. But hopefully you're able to secure some high-end guys if you're in a deeper league format. So we are going to go to the mock drafts. First mock draft on Flock Fantasy, I'm going to be picking from 9. And as I talked about in the number 1 draft strategy video, that is where I'm picking in my home league. So hopefully my league mates aren't watching this. And then in the second one, we're going to be doing the 10 and 11 spot. All right, so we're heading into the draft simulation tool on Flock. Of course, we do have live draft lobbies. If you guys do want to check those out, you can go into a PPR draft, join that up, and draft against other people to getting ready for their home leagues as well. We're going to be doing redraft, full PPR, 2 flex, 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, 14 rounds. Through the first 8 rounds or so, we'll probably talk about exactly our strategy and things of that nature, but we will kind of speed through the later rounds to save you guys some time. But I'm going to be going in from the 9 spot, like I said, and then Danny from the 12 spot. All right, so the draft is underway here. Again, I'm picking from the 9 hole. I'm going to be hopefully getting some of the guys that I'm targeting. This is actually worst case scenario for me because Puka Nacua and Neighbors go off the board. Again, you want to prepare for worst case scenario in your guys' home leagues because sometimes you don't get the gifts. Sometimes you don't have Justin Jefferson fall to you in the 109, like some of the mock drafts that you maybe have done. My 9th overall player right now is, in fact, Nico Collins, if I sort by my rankings, which, of course, site subscribers can do in the mock draft simulator. I'm going to go with Nico Collins and go with the wide receiver pick in the first round, and then I'll throw it to Danny here and see what he ends up doing with his.
Yep, for sure. So I'm on the clock here at the 12th overall pick. And I got a couple decent running back options that I like here. Devon Achane or Ashton Genty being the top of my board. I could, if I wanted to go with a double hero, go with both Brian Thomas Jr. and Drake London. But as much as I like Drake London, I do actually have those 2 running backs ranked above him. So I'm going to go with a hero wide receiver plus hero running back build. Brian Thomas Jr. with my first pick. And I will grab... with the calf strain injury, you could potentially move Devon Achane down the board a little bit, but I'll go Devon Achane. I trust at this point when I'm mocking that calf strain is going to be an issue of the past. But of course, if you're drafting this for your real draft and you don't have any updates in regards to that calf strain, maybe you go with Ashton Genty as a little bit more safety.
Yeah, for sure. And again, all the running backs are off the board. So the best available player mathematically for me here is a wide receiver. So I'm rolling with Drake London here because, again, if you are picking at the 109, like I'm picking at the 109, you are guaranteed one of these players. And this to me is kind of like a tier break, even though I love AJ Brown. I have him shortly behind Drake London. If the question is, if you go Nico in the first round, are you comfortable not getting a running back? Because you might not. In this situation, I don't get a running back coming back. Am I comfortable knowing that I'm going to start Nico Collins and Drake London worst case scenario? And in my case, I am comfortable doing that because I feel in my specific home league that I can get some decent running backs falling to me at the 309. If you cannot get that in your home league, then maybe you probably want to be drafting like a Chase Brown there, making sure you secure yourself a running back, and then you can grab wide receivers and so on later.
Yep, for sure. But you're back on the clock here. Do you take your first running back here with a guy like Kenneth Walker, or do you potentially take a onesie here, knowing what we said?
Yeah, so Kenneth Walker is very, very high up on my board here. And I do think, knowing that these guys went with a lot of running backs, I probably would be fine to get like a Breece Hall or a James Cook falling back to me. So I actually I'm going to risk it a little bit and see if Kenneth Walker doesn't go to me, because there's a bunch of running backs that already went off the board. Actually, you know what? Screw that. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take Kenneth Walker now, because I know what's probably going to end up happening. And I don't feel like risking it. I think I'm comfortable with whatever falls back to me, whether it's the onesies or another running back, as opposed to maybe getting locked out and having to like be like, oh crap, now I got Trevion Henderson as my highest rated running back.
Yeah, and I could very much go with both onesies here. I know for a fact I will go with one of them. I will take Jaden Daniels with one of these picks. And honestly, I'm leaning Trevion Henderson with the other one here, knowing inherently that, like I said, I do like some of the later round tight ends on the board, knowing my rankings in relation to the experts. I can get a guy like Colson Loveland or Tyler Warren. So that's what's clutch about knowing your own league settings, knowing your own league mates. If you know you can get a player that you're targeting later on, it can impact that early round strategy. So for me, Trevion Henderson, stud running back, a lot of upside. Devon Achane and Trevion Henderson is going to be a lot of fun on Sundays.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And as I said in the last draft, in the last video, obviously the best strategy is pick the best player available. But like you just said, if you think that the best player available come round 8, round 9 is going to be a tight end for you, then it de-incentivizes you from taking a tight end early. And that's why we do these strategy videos. It's not because we want to just be like, oh yeah, I'm just going to go double hero running back just for shits and gigs. It's like, it might be the best strategy because you might get wide receiver value later. And that's why we're doing it. So two very interesting options for me here. I could go with Jalen Hurts, who would be my highest ranked player by a little bit. And I don't know if I can look myself in the mirror at night if I take Breece Hall over him. But I could take Breece Hall here and secure my second running back, knowing that in the 5th, 6th round, I'm probably not getting shit at that position. I don't feel really good about it. I'm going to go with Jalen Hurts and see what falls back to me and see how I feel about my team. I think in my specific home league, that's what I would do, because we do have quarterback accelerators. And I do feel comfortable that maybe worst case scenario, I can get like an Isaiah Pacheco in the 6th round or something like that.
By the way, let the Danny bot cook.
Yeah, the Danny bot is kind of cooking at the moment with pretty much exactly who Danny would probably be taking in those situations. So I'm back on the clock here. Zay Flowers, Jalen Waddle, Rashee Rice, and Emeka Egbuka, some of my highest rated players, mostly wide receivers on the board. I could maybe reach down the board a little bit, even though it isn't a tier break for me, and grab James Conner here and just secure myself a second running back. And I think that's actually what I'm going to do, because there's not much dividing these receivers for me. And I feel comfortable that I'll get one of them coming back to me. Whereas if Conner goes, suddenly I'm looking at DeAndre Swift or something at running back. So I'm going to roll James Conner here at the 509.
And that was the one of the main reasons why I did take Henderson at the 401. If I had taken a onesie there, wouldn't have felt comfortable with grabbing a lot of the running backs on this 4 or 5, 6 turn, assuming, of course, that you would have went with a Connor or Harvey. So that's, again, knowing your league, knowing that if you don't take Henderson there and you do go with a onesie, you're probably left staring down the barrel of a DeAndre Swift, David Montgomery, Tony Pollard, that type of running back here. So feel good about having those 2 running backs, because I really do love these wide receivers here. I sort by my own rankings. Sorry, I'm going to have to do it to you. My 2 highest rated wide receivers, Jalen Waddle is one of them, and Emeka Egbuka is actually the other one.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the wide receiver position just kind of dried up for me there, because I did think I was going to get one of DJ Moore, Rashee Rice, Waddle, Egbuka, or Flowers, who would have been a tier break for me. So it kind of sucks that I got to start the next tier at wide receiver. But knowing that I have 2 studs, I got Nico Collins, Drake London. I'll probably go with Chris Olave, who's a little bit more risky. But
Cozy.
I do feel, what's up?
Cozy. If he stays healthy, you know what you're going to get on every week.
Yeah, no, exactly. And he's also a really high target share guy. Obviously, the Saints offense kind of stinks, but Chris Olave is a guy that we were taking in the round 2, 3 range the last 2 years of fantasy drafts, and his offense wasn't very good those years either. So looking back at the board here, again, I don't really love what's fallen back to me. This is definitely kind of a doomsday scenario just overall. And this is stuff you got to practice for, man. You got to practice your doomsday scenario, because you cannot practice in cushy ESPN lobbies all the time where Emeka Egbuka is available in the 10th round. Like it's just not going to happen in your real draft if your league mates know what they're doing. Just assume that your league mates know what they're doing and then let them prove you wrong in the draft. If you're like, okay, my league mates are going to be rational here. They're not going to let me get Emeka Egbuka at the 703 or whatever, or the 709 where I'm picking here. But if my league mates are dumb enough to let me get Emeka Egbuka at that position, then I'm going to take advantage of that. So could go with Tyrone Tracy on the board here. Could go Jaden Reed, Jerry Jeudy on the board. I went with a safe receiver in Chris Olave there the last time. I'll take the swing on Jaden Reed that he ends up really breaking out for the Packers here.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be a pretty standard turn here. Like I said, there's tight ends that I do like. However, I feel given where I have them ranked, I could potentially get them falling back to me at that 9-12 spot. So I'll risk it. I do like a couple of these running back and wide receiver projections here. So Tyrone Tracy's going to be one of these picks. And then if I sort by my rankings, best available receiver, I don't even like this guy, but I do think this is pretty good ADP value for where he usually goes and does fit my build with Jacoby Myers.
Okay, there you go. And then Debo, I was actually probably going to take if he fell back to me because I kind of liked what he represented there. I mean, I think I'm going to take an Indianapolis Colt of some kind here, whether it's Michael Pittman or Tyler Warren. I could use the tight end. I don't really need Michael Pittman because I feel like I got 4 starters here, and I think I can even maybe get a safer guy like Pittman later. Like I know my quadruple condom Christian Kirk is always on the table there. So I'll take Tyler Warren and secure my tight end position at the 804. Again, if you guys are in casual leagues, maybe you're like, holy shit, I don't have to take Tyler Warren that high. I can get him in round 10. Well, then more power to you. But in a sharper room, you got to take him this high.
I completely forgot about the FSE bot. Oh man, the FSE bot knows ball. I shouldn't have thought that Loveland would make it back to me because my rankings we're always going to draft them there.
Yeah, and again, that's a unique problem to you and I is that we probably don't have rankings factoring in on a normal mock draft. But I'm back on the board here with Keon Coleman, Rashad Bateman. Some of these guys are my highest rated receivers, Jalen Warren, J.K. Dobbins, and so on. My highest rated running backs. I do have my 2 guys that I feel pretty good about locked down, and I'll probably just take upside swings beyond that. And after this selection, we'll kind of sim to the end of the draft, but I'll take one more upside swing on a wide receiver. Take Keon Coleman here. Maybe he breaks out. We'll see what happens.
Yep, for sure. And I could, play the ADP game. However, with that being said, you kind of have to reach on one guy when you're at the turn like this. And the one guy I will reach on will be Tucker Kraft. Again, there is always the risk that he never makes it back to me because the domain bot takes him. So I'm comfortable, even despite a lot of these teams having a tight end, taking a guy who I view has a ton of upside here. And to be honest, I might just very well double tap at the tight end position. Take my upside shot with Tucker Kraft, get my safety here with David Njoku because I do feel like he's pretty clearly for me the best player left on the board, and I feel comfortable with what I built up at the flexes.
Yeah, and there's not a whole lot of great value in sharper leagues. Round 8 to 10 sucks. And that's why it kind of makes sense to punt tight end and quarterback to this territory because you're going to look at the board and you're going to go Rashad Bateman, like Jalen Warren, J.K. Dobbins. Like you're not excited about anything. And it de-incentivizes you from taking a George Kittle type where you are excited about the wide receiver and running back projections on the board there. So I'll make this last pick and then we'll kind of sim to the end of the draft. But I mean, I didn't think Jalen Warren would fall back to me, but I'll take him here.
Good pick.
Could be the starting running back for the Steelers.
Yeah, I mean, I almost took him at that turn. Like I said, I kind of wanted a pairing of the upside plus the stability there at tight end. But if I had not gone with 2 tight ends there, I would have taken Warren. So love that pick.
All right, so the draft is over. Again, at the end, I fill out Jalen Warren with Dylan Sampson, Marquise Brown, Tyler Algier, Dallas Goedert. Grab a second tight end. I grabbed a rookie with my first one, and he stacked up with my quarterback, Jalen Hurts. That makes sense there. And then you basically grab out some, Keenan Allen, Ray Davis, Rico Dowdle, Jalen Coker types. And again, Flock Fantasy does grade your draft. You can sort by our rankings if you're a site subscriber. You can see who kind of had your best draft. You can sort by expert rankings if you are not a site subscriber. So we'll rip into the sleeper draft and we'll show you guys kind of what it looks like if you're going running back in the first round instead of wide receiver. All right, so we're now into the sleeper draft. And again, we're going to show you guys what it looks like more so from the running back in the first round, frame of mind. I think if you're going to go running back in the first round, it probably should be from like the 10, 11, or 12 spot where you feel like you can get one of those top end wide receivers falling back to you. I don't feel as comfortable doing it from the 9 hole because you could get locked out at that position. So what are you looking at here at the 110?
My 9th overall player, clear tier break, or not clear tier, but clear best player available on my board here, Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, there you go. That makes sense. For me, my 10th overall player and a clear tier break, I suppose I could punt him into the next pick and take Genty first and see if I could do the double hero. You know what? I actually am going to do that because I'll take Genty here. And if Achane falls back to me, then I get to roll with the double hero start, and I can see how I land the plane on this one. So I'm going to do the double hero and showcase what that looks like. You're going to go probably, I'd imagine, for the more balanced approach, given that your 7th overall player fell to you at 203. So
sometimes, like we said, you got to thank your lucky stars. When Nico Collins stares you in the face at the 2-3, you don't ask questions. You take him. Also, it must be editor Nick at that 12 hole with the Brock Bowers pick.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, to be clear, if we were drafting on our rankings, I would not have taken Ashton Genty over Malik Neighbors because Malik Neighbors is my 7th overall player. You would not have taken Christian McCaffrey over Nico Collins because Nico Collins is your 7th overall player. But we're showcasing to you guys, if your takes differ a little bit, what it looks like to kind of start your draft with a running back at the end of the first, in case you do love McCaffrey this year, in case you do love Genty or Achane or Henry this year.
Yeah, and I'll do a modified double hero because this is the clear best player on the board for me, Amari Hampton.
There you go. And again, I have a couple players on the board that I like. I could go with, JD, or could go with Jalen Hurts, George Kittle, something like that. But as we talked about, if you go with that double hero start at the running back position, you're probably pigeonholed into taking a wide receiver with your third pick, because otherwise you're going to be starting friggin',
Hey,
slappies at wide receiver. So I'll go with Marvin Harrison Jr. I'll take the risk that he takes that big step and becomes a stud.
and the caveat for me, obviously, is even though it's a double hero in the sense that I have two running backs in the first 3 rounds, I could also just view it as a hero wide receiver because I have Nico Collins ranked in the range I got McCaffrey.
Yeah, no, exactly. You could flip your Collins and McCaffrey pick, and it would make total sense for you there. So
For sure.
again, given that I went double running back in the first two picks, I definitely can't go with a running back here. And honestly, I don't feel comfortable taking Kittle and Hurts with Marvin Harrison as my only wide receiver, knowing that by the time the board comes back to me, I might be looking at, no more JMO, no more Pickens, no more Waddle. Like those guys could all be gone. So for me, I feel like I'm kind of pigeonholed into taking wide receiver here, which is why it's kind of suboptimal to start double hero running back. But if you have conviction, you got two legendary running backs, I mean, you probably have to take them at that point in time. I'll roll with Devontae Adams here and go with a little bit of a safer projection to go along with Marvin Harrison so that I can get a great option there to go along with him.
And you made my pick easy. If you weren't going to take Jalen Hurts, he wasn't leaving me here. Like I said, more comfortable leaving my first 4 rounds with only one wide receiver when that one wide receiver is Nico Collins. That is the thesis of a hero wide receiver. You're getting your elite mid-end or better wide receiver one production, and then you'll make it up in the numbers in rounds 5 through 7. If you don't have that type of projection, again, maybe Marvin Harrison Jr. can turn into Nico Collins, but I got the bird in the hand. I know what Nico Collins represents, 20-plus point per game scorer, whereas for Marvin Harrison Jr., it's a lot more of a projection right now, hence why you needed that number 2.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's pretty hard to get your hero wide receiver built around if you don't kind of go off the board and get your running backs early. Because if you were to just keep taking wide receivers there, by the time you get to round 5, round 6, round 7, you're not going to really love any of the running back projections, and then you'd be behind the 8 ball there. So that's why, like, your start is more optimal than mine, because you feel comfortable that in rounds 5 to 7 you're going to get the wide receivers there. So that's kind of why I wanted to showcase both. I mean, I didn't think I was going to get Devontae Smith here, so that's absolutely a gift based on my rankings. And then Pickens would have been nice if he fell back to me, but I do have T-Mac on the board and Isaiah Pacheco. I'm probably not going to go in the direction of Pacheco, given that I spent my first 2 picks on running backs. Kelsey, it's too early. Andrews is too early. Mayfield and Nix is too early for those guys for me. So it'll be between Hunter and it'll be between Tedero and McMillan. I'll let you live here, and I'll go with Ted McMillan instead, because I know you're probably foaming at the mouth to get Travis Hunter.
Yeah, let's waste no more time and let's go right into Travis Hunter. If I'm willing to take him at the 411 in the flock league, I'm willing to take him at 6'3 in a sleeper mock.
Yeah, and Tedero McMillan went at the 402, I believe, or the 403 in our flock league as well. So if you're taking anything away from sleeper strategy here, and we'll actually have that video later this week, these 2 rookie receivers, and Igbuka too, actually, and Golden too, these guys are going a lot lower in sleeper leagues than they are in sharper formats on Underdog and just regular, drafts that people know what they're doing.
And like I said, you still got to thank your lucky stars when you're gifted a gift. Roma did say, I'm not even going to question how he made it here.
Yeah, no, definitely. The running back position is, I mean, I'd be willing to take the risk on Judkins at this point, knowing that Genty and Achane are locking down my other running backs. I got 4 receivers in a row that I feel pretty good about.
What about it at the 507?
I probably wouldn't take him that high. Sorry, Nathan. I could also take Kyler here too, because I have Harrison. I could definitely take him with my next pick potentially, because that guy already has Jaden Daniels. Tight end position, I think it's a little bit too early. I'll probably punt that back on the way. But yeah, I think if I'm cheating here, I could take Emeka Egbuka, but I think in a serious draft, he would probably be off the board right now.
I took Roma Dunze. Treat yourself. I took Roma Dunze. Neither of those guys are realistic.
I'll take the highest available player that I have here, which is by far and away Emeka Egbuka.
Neither of them are realistic 7th rounders. They are both back end of 5th rounders in any league that actually knows what they're doing. But
for sure. Yeah. And I'll take the risk on Quinchon here. At this point, I'm okay taking him at like the 7-8 turn. I would not, however, take him in the 5th round. Like Nathan took him in our flock league, but there's a good chance that you'll have an opportunity to draft him if you're in this area of the board. I think that where Judkins goes will probably be around the 6-7 turn, early 7th, mid 7th, somewhere in that range. So if you guys are thinking, hey, what do I do with Judkins right now? He's a fine risk to take, because I think eventually he'll get back on the field, but I'm not going overboard with him either.
Hey, comment section around the 38-minute mark. I already know you guys are going to do your thing with the timestamps.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
You don't even know what I'm referring to. You said 6'7", and they love commenting when you do.
Yes, they do love commenting 6, 7. And I believe by the time this is edited down, it'll probably be more like the 34-minute mark. But yeah.
Fair. Yeah, no, you guys will figure it out when you're watching. But regardless, I'm back on the clock here. I get Colson Loveland. I will take Colson Loveland. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Let's have some fun.
Yeah, and I was kind of hoping he would fall to me. One of Warren or him would fall to me, and they ended up both going. Harrison, Adams, Smith, McMillan, and Igbuka. Igbuka's quarterback is gone, and Harrison's quarterback is now gone. I thought Kyler would have a chance of falling back to me. So I don't really have any stacking options here, but I do feel pretty confident in some of the quarterbacks that are here. I'll take a rushing quarterback here with Caleb Williams because I don't really feel like I need his stacking partners because he does run the football a little bit. Josh Downs is somehow still on the board here, which also in the Flock League, I ended up grabbing him. So I feel pretty good about him this year. Do I want to risk that a tight end falls back to me, whether it's Kincaid, Kraft, Pitts, Ferguson, or Goddard? You know what? I think I'm probably not going to risk it. I'm just going to take Tucker Kraft here and pass on Josh Downs, even though I absolutely love the projection for him. I just think if I got locked out at tight end and I'm looking back at Hunter Henry on my way back, I probably wouldn't have felt good about that.
Yeah, there's always the risk, like, for example, Team 4 double taps tight ends knowing they don't have one at this point. So I don't mind just going out, getting your guy, knowing that realistically, whatever skill position player you could have grabbed at the 10-2, realistically, what's the big difference in opportunity bundle between them versus the guy you grab at 11-11?
Yeah, no, exactly. You got to, at some point, you got to just be like, I probably just got to take the tight end.
For sure. So I have an interesting running back core, McCaffrey, Omarion Hampton, Tyrone Tracy. Feel like I kind of need another guy that potentially profiles in some early touches. And for me, that guy is going to be Tank Bigsby. So I will grab him here at the 10-3. Perfectly fine, quote unquote, reaching on Bigsby, knowing what it represents. But the next time you'll see us, it'll be at the finish of this draft, and we can compare teams.
All right, so we're now to the end of the draft. Again, I go Genty H.N. in the first round, Christian McCaffrey and Nico, you go in the first round there. We show you guys the running back start. We close it out with a bunch of handcuffs and whatnot, as we always do. So again, appreciate you guys for making it to the end of the video. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new around here. If you want all of our rankings, FSC versus home league stuff, so you guys can know if you're on ESPN, if you're on Sleeper, if you're on Yahoo, the best available values based on our rankings, head on over to get the season pass. That'll be linked down below in the pinned comment. Use the promo code FSE. You'll get it for just $35 for the rest of the season. August through January, you'll be covered. Site rankings, draft guides, in-season rankings, start-sit rankings, everything you guys could possibly need from us and the other creators in the Flock League. Make sure to go check out the Flock League vlog as well. If you guys haven't seen it yet, the draft vlog is live. And of course, check out Underdog if you guys want to get some practice into your home leagues. You can use the promo code FSE when you sign up. You can get up to $1,000 in bonus funds on the site to play with. And of course, you can get some great practice in for your home league drafts by doing drafts on Flock Fantasy with the Sharp Expert Rankings, by doing drafts on your own home league platform on Sleeper, and by doing drafts on Underdog. You will be over prepared to help dominate your league mates these coming weeks when you guys have your drafts.
Exactly. And you guys saw the stark differences. If you know you were in a Sharp league, everybody's bringing their own rankings, we're drafted at somebody's place, we're in a serious setting. Flockfantasy.com, as you saw, you're not going to get some of the values that you got on Sleeper. Like you said, Corey, and you make this comparison all the time, it's like preparing to fight your high school bully with Mike Tyson.
Yes. Whether it's the Flock Fantasy Draft Simulator or Underdog Fantasy, you will have a good idea of where the players who know what they're doing are taking the great players and the great values in fantasy, and you won't go into your draft going, oh, I thought I could get a Mecca Igbuka in the 10th round like every mock draft I was doing. It's like, well, on Underdog, he goes in the 6th round, and in the Flock League, he went in the 6th round as well. So you're probably going to have to take him in the 7th round or in the 6th round if you end up wanting him, and then your draft strategy isn't out the window like a lot of people who just do mock drafts on ESPN or just do mock drafts on Sleeper might be thinking. So link down below for all that stuff if you guys are interested. Peace out, and we'll talk to you soon.